Oh, poor Justin Trudeau. It seems the plot of his year-long grand espionage thriller has been unceremoniously cancelled even before the second act and the climax. Justin Trudeau strode onto the world stage a few months ago, chest puffed out, hinting at shadowy Indian involvement in the killing of ISI-backed Khalistani terrorist Sardip Singh Nijjar in some hellhole in Canada. A Khalistani separatist and terrorist and part-time Canadian citizen extraordinaire. It was going to be Trudeau's big moment, Canada's own James Bond uncovering dastardly foreign plots on his sovereign soil. Alas now, Trudeau's own security, National Security Intelligence Agency, has just hit him with the most unforgivable twist of all, a big, gaping plot hole. Yes, the very folks mandated with knowing what's going on in the murky world of spies and statecraft have poured cold water, humiliating cold water, on the claims Trudeau and his ministers have been all but shouting from the rooftops about for the last few months. Not aware of any direct links between the Indian Prime Minister, the External Affairs Minister, or even the National Security Advisor with Sardip Singh Nijjar's demise, they now say in a public press release. How embarrassing is that? Remember those strategic leaks to newspapers in the US and Canada over the last couple of years, viewer? Of course you remember that. We've been reporting them. The ones that conveniently pointed fingers at India with all the subtlety of a Bollywood action sequence. They had Trudeau practically smirking in the House of Commons, demanding answers from India as if he were presiding over an international courtroom drama. Now it turns out that the star witness, the Canadian intelligence community, might not even want to testify. They've thrown Trudeau under the bus. Trudeau's theatrics have already led to diplomatic brawls, trade disputes, violence on the streets of Canadian cities, and the enormous souring of Canada-India relations. Canadian diplomats were unceremoniously thrown out of Delhi a few weeks ago, and Indian visa services for Canadians were paused indefinitely. But hey, at least Trudeau had those leaks, right? If there's a silver lining here, it is that Canadians are now free to imagine what Trudeau might say next. Perhaps he'll claim the intelligence community in Canada has been infiltrated by rogue agents loyal to India. Maybe Amit Shah is now controlling Canadian intelligence. Or maybe he'll accuse India of hiding their secret plans on cricket scoreboards. Well, one thing's for sure, whatever Trudeau comes up with next, it's bound to be just as entertaining, if not as believable. And if you're wondering why this change of heart, other than India's contemptuous and regular clapback at Trudeau's tomfoolery and clownish diplomacy, let's not forget the geopolitical winds shifting down south. With a Trump administration headed into the White House, Trudeau now realizes that his once comfortable perch as the US's woke little brother isn't so secure anymore. Under Biden, Trudeau could count on a neighbor whose general disinterest in rocking the boat on anti-India issues like Khalistan left Canada plenty of room to stir up drama about Khalistani terror. The United States, in fact, wasn't just indifferent, it even had a direct hand in it. But Trump, oh, he's a different beast altogether. Love him or hate him, he's unlikely to play this Khalistani game that Trudeau's becoming obsessed with. Trump has never been one to mince words about radical movements, and he certainly isn't likely to lose sleep over Trudeau's hurt feelings on Nijjar's activism. In fact, Trump's previous coziness with Narendra Modi might leave Trudeau sweating bullets about what happens when the US not only stops tolerating his anti-India antics, but actively, potentially undermines them. Suddenly, Canada looks less like a righteous defender of human rights and more like the guy yelling into the void while everyone else moves on to more profitable adult relationships and partnerships in the world. And maybe, just maybe, Trudeau is starting to realize that he's lost all global credibility. It's the end of his political identity and career. He's bet the farm on a relationship with a rising nation like India. This sudden change of tone, letting his own intelligence agency publicly disown his accusations against India, could be the first step in a long and very awkward walk of shame journey towards damage control, if that were even possible on Trudeau's watch. After all, with diplomatic relations with India already in tatters, Trudeau cannot afford to keep poking the tiger. If Canada wants to salvage even a shred of its economic ties with India, a full-blown U-turn might be the only option left. So is this Trudeau's quiet attempt to ease off the gas? Perhaps after months of chest thumping, Trudeau might be testing out a softer approach. We didn't say Modi, we didn't say Doval, we didn't say Jaishankar. It was just the media that did it. We don't know anyone who leaked it. Here he is hoping that everyone, including Modi himself, simply forgets his earlier stupidity and bravado. The trouble is, damage control often requires humility. And if there's one thing that Trudeau has struggled with, it's admitting when he's wrong. Still, desperate times call for desperate measures, and with his own intelligence agency effectively pulling the rug out from under him, Trudeau may have no choice but to start tiptoeing towards the exit of this geopolitical mess that he's made.
The Canadian Prime Minister isn't having a great political season.
When our law enforcement and intelligence officials began pursuing credible allegations that...
After opening a dangerous diplomatic front with India over the killing of a pro-Khalistan terrorist in Canada, Justin Trudeau's escalations have now exploded in his face. 2 days after one of Canada's biggest newspapers carried the latest Trudeau government leak, quoting Canadian security agencies to link Indian Prime Minister Modi to the Nijjar killing, the Canadian government on Friday stated that there is no evidence to connect Prime Minister Narendra Modi or any of his top officials to any criminal activity in Canada, including the killing of Khalistani terrorist Sardip Singh Nijjar. But the leak to the Canadian newspaper wasn't a stray piece of planted information, but supported by claims made by Trudeau government ministers and senior officials.
Well, there was definitely a threat, and that's exactly why the RCMP decided to take the extraordinary measure of making public the fact that Canadians were being intimidated, victim of extortion, or even receiving death threats because Indian agents or agents and diplomats from India were linked to these criminal actions.
And also, literally, Trudeau himself.
They met with Indian officials to share RCMP evidence which concluded 6 agents of the Government of India are persons of interest in criminal activities. And despite repeated requests to the Government of India, it has decided not to cooperate.
While the Trudeau government's on-record claims have steered clear of naming the Indian Prime Minister or ministers, it has regularly conducted its diplomatic attacks on India via unsubstantiated leaks to newspapers, including this headline in the Washington Post and this plant in the Globe and Mail naming Indian Home Minister Amit Shah. The denial from Trudeau's own National Security Intelligence Agency isn't just an embarrassment, but a major U-turn, one that turns this entire saga on its head. The question now is, what has triggered this change of heart after more than a year of a smear campaign against India? Bureau Report, India Today.
Canada is a country rooted in the rule of law and the protection of our citizens